So here are 5 parts to building an amazing personal brand. I'm going to go through each of them individually, so I hope you'll follow along. Here is a quick intro about me, Goldie Chan. Why am I speaking to you today? Well, I am rather hilariously known as the Oprah of LinkedIn. I am named that because I created over 800 videos consecutively on LinkedIn, and those got millions and millions of views. And to this date, I don't think there's anybody who's actually beat my 2-year organic content uploading spree, we'll call it. And because of that, there's been a ton of articles written about me. I've been on probably at this point hundreds of podcasts, maybe. And also I currently write for Forbes on storytelling and personal branding in the digital age. So I am obviously very obsessed with how to build your brand at any point in time and how to tell the story behind your brand. I think one of the most interesting things about right now is that we have the opportunity to tell our own stories and we have that agency. So the best thing we can do is to take that and then to go forward and tell the best possible story that we can. So let's get into it. The first point that I want to bring up is our demographic. So before we even start thinking about the basics of our personal brand, let's think through very carefully who it is that we want to speak to. Are we speaking to potential clients? Are we speaking to employees? Are we speaking to our coworkers, our colleagues? Who is the demographic that we're trying to target? And if we have narrowed down that target into the category of people that we're trying to speak to, then I want us to also think about the actual breakdown of that demographic. Is it primarily male or female? Is it a certain age group? Is it folks that live in the UK versus the US? What are the demographics that exist within that demographic? And also, what are their online and offline behaviors? So oftentimes when we finally narrow down who we're talking to, which is, by the way, one of the cornerstones of storytelling as well, we can't tell a great brand story unless we have an audience. Once we've narrowed down who we're talking to, we still need to figure out where they live. And once again, that might mean where do they live physically, but it also might mean, okay, are they on forums? Are they on blogs? Are they watching TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram, etc.? Where do they live on the internet? And then what kind of brick and mortar stores are they going into and frequenting? This will also help very accurately tailor the brand correctly. So when you're thinking about a personal brand, the first thing you want to think about is demographics. Now, the next thing to think about is your brand keywords. What do I mean by brand keywords? Well, you're only allowed to have 3 of them from now on. And of those 3, they should come from 2 different categories. When I work with Fortune 500 C-level executives on their brands, I also make them, or their assistants, go through this exercise as well. And that is having hard skills and soft skills. So what are the hard skills you have? Now, hard skills might be anything from marketing to engineering to writing, etc. What are those skills and or job role that you're known for best? And then soft skills are all those beautiful adjectives that then describe either you and or your brand. So is that warm, funny, sarcastic, hardworking, intelligent, creative, all of these beautiful adjectives to go through when you're thinking about your personal brand. And if you get stuck, I find one of the best things to do is to force yourself to go beyond what I call beyond 20. So beyond 20 keywords to start. It's always better to have a long list of keywords and then go from there and narrow down into 3 perfect keywords. And if you get super stuck, of course, the best way to handle this is to ask someone that's close to you, but that you are either not married to, not related to, someone who's not in that super inner circle of yours, but 1 degree away. Ask them to come up with a couple of keywords for you as well. It's very revealing what other people say about our brand. And why is it revealing? Because we don't always like what other people will say, and if that's the case, then we have a chance to start to change our personal brand so it becomes closer to what we want it to be. Now, instead of arguing or fighting with someone that, no, hey, my personal brand is this way, think about how you're coming off and how you're really revealing yourself in a way that is causing people to really associate you with certain keywords that you might not want to be associated with. And this is so important in 2021 because we have a fresh chance to really create something new for ourselves. So I love you to start doing this as your first exercise of 2021 is coming up with 3 very fresh brand keywords. Now, the third part to building your personal brand in 2021 is to keep showing up. It's nothing magical to keep showing up time and again and being, another great word, consistent. If you can consistently show up either by creating content or by, say, going on podcasts or hosting events, this is how people will remember you. So keep showing up in spaces that matter. And let's go back to, of course, number 1, our demographics that we want to target. If we can keep showing up in places that the demographic that we want to speak to exists in, that's a great result. So for example, if the majority of your audience lives on LinkedIn, then LinkedIn is a great platform to start thinking about writing long-form articles, creating video content, posting videos, etc. There's so much that you can do on almost all of these platforms now online, so you don't even need to go in person, that makes it so much easier to build your brand. But at the end of the day, if you show up consistently, it's incredibly helpful. I think a lot about my own journey having to show up and creating over 800 videos on LinkedIn that I personally uploaded, I want to say at least 99% of those videos myself in different cities and countries all over the world. And because I consistently showed up for 2 years in a row, people understood and got familiar with my personal brand. So it was that consistency, it was that showing up over and over again that was so helpful for me to grow my own brand. And so I impart this wisdom upon you, which is show up, be consistent, but of course I have to add this as a caveat, don't be annoying. So what we don't want is someone who, say, sends 5 messages in a row into an inbox that aren't none of those messages are responded to. If you have to talk to somebody, it's fine to send 1 message, it's fine to even send a second follow-up message, but please don't spam people. That is not consistent, that is annoying. So we want to be consistent in a really positive and good way in 2021. Now, number 4 is have fun. Too many personal brands, especially right now, we're fresh into 2021, are focused on such serious aspects of both building their brand, building community. Everything feels more mechanical than it should be. Think about a lot of really beautiful, successful brands. A lot of them were having fun. In fact, I recently wrote an article about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how much fun she had. She obviously wasn't actively trying to grow a brand, but she clearly had such a lasting brand because of the decisions she made, because of the amazing outfits that she wore, because of the way she held herself, but she also had a lot of fun with her brand. She didn't take herself too seriously. Now that's the second point I want to make, which is even as you're growing your brand, even as you hopefully get larger and larger and your audiences get bigger and bigger, it's very helpful to not take yourself too seriously. It's helpful to focus in on what's important and be serious about that, but not so serious about yourself. I know that when I was creating a ton of content, there were a couple of other creators who popped up around the same time as me, and I like to think that there was a period of time where I maybe took myself a little bit too seriously, but also I think that there was a lot of very interesting, fun stuff that happened when we just tried to create content for fun. We collaborated instead of letting egos get in the way. I think whenever you start to take yourself seriously, or too seriously rather, and you let egos dominate a conversation, that is when your brand tends to hit a plateau or tends to be stifled. That being said, of course, it's helpful to have boundaries. So have fun with your brand, but understand that, for example, if you work in the financial sector or the healthcare sector, there might be boundaries or limits to that fun that you can have with your brand. So be very thoughtful also about the industry vertical or sector that you are currently in. It's helpful to know who you're talking to. So back to number one, in order to understand what those boundaries are. But outside of that, be more playful, and you'll notice that other people have fun with your brand too. And number 5 is do what you're good at. So many people, when they're thinking about building their personal brand for the first time, they want to build an aspirational brand that is completely different than who they are in reality. So whatever natural qualities you already have, you naturally possess, you should be building those into your personal brand. Of course, you can want to move, say, wanting to become more aspirational for others, or wanting to appear more intelligent, more charming, etc. These are all great things to try to move towards, but you should have part of this yourself. So maybe you're naturally quite quirky. Keep that quirkiness as part of your personal brand. And this applies, of course, to our career and skill set as well as content creation. So if you are thinking at all about creating content as it relates to your personal brand, if you naturally like to listen to podcasts, maybe you should think about creating a podcast. Probably because you are already an expert in podcasts. You could probably tell me at least 5 or 6 podcasts that are great and why you enjoy them. And the same thing is true if you love watching YouTube videos. You might be able to pull out a couple of interesting characteristics from YouTube videos that then you can use in creating your own content, or other platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, etc. So whatever kind of content you like to consume, think about the essence of why you like to consume that content, and then think about, can you mimic that in your own personal brand and the content that you create around your personal brand. I think it's always so much easier when we take what we're already good at and use that to build our personal brand. So when I started doing video content, when I started building my own personal brand, I already had green hair, and I had a choice of course, changing my hair to a more neutral color or a different color, or keeping it and building it into my brand. And now on the LinkedIn platform, whenever you see a green heart emoji, half the time that represents me on the platform. And for a while, pretty much every GIF that was linked to LinkedIn had my face in it. So everything that was tied to my personal brand was tied to that certain platform, and it just very naturally occurred. So for me, since that naturally occurred, I leaned into it and I said, okay, well, this seems to be working out well, so let's keep going with this. Let's see how this develops into my own personal brand. So taking what you're good at and building that into your own personal brand is a really interesting way to think about growing your personal brand in 2021. I love to always assign homework after each of my talks, and the reason for that is it's very helpful to have an exercise to go through so it really cements in your head some of the beautiful things that we've already covered and already talked about during the course of this talk. And the homework for you today is to create a digital event or in-person event that has at least 6 to 10 attendees, and it should be filtered through your 3 keywords, and it should attract your key demographic. So number 1 and number 2 of the personal brand for 2021 that we already talked about. And on top of that, I want you to document this event. And after the event is over, I want you to post about the event and really understand what happened in the event, how it furthered your brand. I want you to share some findings about the event with your audience on whatever platform your audience is on. So whether that's Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, etc., share it on that particular platform. And once you've done that, feel free, of course, to tag me, and you're well on your way to building a personal brand. So I hope you enjoyed this talk on personal branding in the digital age. It was so fun to talk with you about really wonderful ways to think about growing your personal brand in 2021. This is a fresh new year, and I hope that this has inspired you to understand that you can grow your brand pretty much in any year, and this is a great year to start thinking about growing your brand. As always, you can find me on Forbes. You can also find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Goldie. You can find me on Twitter at GoldieChan. So these are some of the best places to find me, and of course you can always send me a direct email at goldie@warmrobots.com. So I look forward to hearing about your journey with your personal brand. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this festival.